Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bernard Canna. I am the editor, owner, jack of all trades of the website known as the Dice Knights. We have a very special interview that we're able to get done today, and I thank the two who are here with us to do that. I want to introduce everyone here to Erin Zipperle. He is the CEO, and then we have Conrad Pflumm, who is the COO of the company known as Rollacrit. Now, I'm sure that Rollacrit definitely probably stands out in your mind right away, especially if you are a Gen Con attendee or recently been listening about Gen Con and what's going on there. But we're going to get to that in a minute. So we want to talk a little bit to Erin and Conrad about the company and what they have going on these days. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yourself?
I'm doing well. It's a Friday, and even as though Friday the 13th, nothing bad has happened so far. So
that's right.
I'll say that now.
Knock on wood, we're good
Yep.
and good to go here. So let's start out with the basic stuff. So tell me a little bit about how Rollacrit came to be. A little bit maybe about the history of how you guys decided to form this company and how that took off.
Yeah. So really, Rollacrit, the main goal of Rollacrit is to build a community, based around product. There's a lot of companies that are publishers. There's a lot of people that make dice, and there's a lot of people that make accessories for games. But there hasn't been a lot of collectibles or merchandise companies for the tabletop community, and we wanted to fill that gap. I come from ThinkGeek, which some people may have remembered was a geeky site for pop culture and video games. And I ran a lot of marketing there, and we got purchased by GameStop. And since, is now kind of in the ether of what happened to ThinkGeek. And what happened to ThinkGeek is a lot of the key players that we had, working with us at the time have kind of split off into a couple different companies. And one of them is starting Rollacrit. And so with Rollacrit, that is really it. It's a bunch of team of people that got together because we didn't want to see ThinkGeek die, but we couldn't enter in that same realm. And we always had awesome brainstorms and opportunities to work with, Wizards of the Coast and some other tabletop publishers at that time, but we never really capitalized on that. And so that kind of frustrated me to a point where, I'm a casual player. I play Magic, I play, worker placement games and things like that. And so I really wanted to get into a place where people still interact and buy product. Yeah, as tabletop gaming is always bringing people together, and now it's kind of going digital. Couch co-op for video games kind of died out. And so it's hard to find that. And so you don't really have to get together with your friends to play video games anymore. You just get online. But I still like the human interaction aspect of tabletop gaming. And so that's what it seemed like this is the avenue to go into. And Conrad and I went to college together. And so it was a natural fit as he kind of fills in all the games I haven't played. He's more into D&D and things like that. He can speak on that himself. But it was a natural fit to kind of bring him into to get another perspective. And also, the talents that he has really fill the gap to make us what we are today.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we saw for an opportunity for what Rollacrit could be was that there's a lot of passionate people with a lot of incredible creativity in this space, and being able to find ways to get them to demonstrate that by either through, like Erin said, collectibles or apparel and things like that, but without it feeling like it's just a logo slap of a game that you're into, that there's subtle touches, you know what I mean? There's ways to showcase your fandom without it having to scream that necessarily, right? And that way it kind of creates that secret handshake experience so that other people who are in the know, they pick up on it, and other people who aren't just think you're wearing something really cool, or you've got this, awesome accessory that just happens to be, a great design or something like that. But when you know, And that's kind of how we take that approach to all of the products that we do. How can we get that little subtle touch where if you can pick up on that, you kind of caught a secret joke that we had in there or something like that. So
that makes total sense, because I think in our gaming community, that's a lot of how that feel is, right? It's either about it or you just don't know about it. And
Right.
And the inside jokes are always the fun ones about when you're wearing your shirt out and people look at you, go like, okay. Like, I get you. I'm with you.
I see you there.
I see you there. When did Rollacrit start as a company?
It started right after, so 2020 is when we kind of started building everything up, but we didn't launch until February of 2021. as we were building our Kickstarter at the time. So that's why the idea was there, but as we were take some momentum to kind of get everyone together and aligned and try to find everything to work together, because unlike being publicly traded at, Think Geek, this is all 100% self-funded. So there's only so many resources you have to go a certain speed. So we're trying to keep it very organic and fan owned.
And yeah, and especially the fact that, you were right at the edge now of the pandemic that's really starting to, now hopefully make its way out. I mean, I'm sure that was a big struggle, with you guys to try to get a launch going too.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the lack of resources, just overseas and the price increases of everything. I mean, it's not really, if you're trying to start a merchandise company now, I'd advise to hold until we start seeing ships in the sea again. But yeah, it's definitely been quite a challenge, but I think what it allowed us to do is kind of build a strong infrastructure and also build a strong foundation to make sure that we thought through a lot of the processes we wanted to kind of work through and find other solutions that we could be a little bit more agile than just relying on product from overseas.
Okay, and let's talk just a little briefly about your product. So what type of things do you offer for tabletop gamers as a part of Rollacrit?
So as of now, we went with, we have apparel and we have some pins, we have some stuff that we can, we print domestically here. We have dice and things like that as well, just to start up, just to show people what we have. But we're entering the wholesale space and the space to try to get us into, and we're making partnerships and signing licenses to kind of get hardline product and some more softline product into the market through wholesale and through retailers, but then in turn being able to afford to bring that stuff on the site. I know, talking about manufacturing can get really boring, but essentially, long story short is when you want to make a product, you can't just get 10 of those. You need to spend a lot of money and get like 4,000 of those. And so until we build our audience and our traffic up, which we're hoping to do soon, we can't really fulfill that market. And to store that stuff is very expensive as well, because all of the prices everywhere went up. So as we start building that stuff up and getting things starting to ship a little bit easier, we'll start seeing the site fill out a little bit more with more robust stuff. But as of now, we have our humble beginnings.
And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. What do you have? Each of you have a favorite product so far that you have created and that you're already available for people to go out there and find?
What's funny is I think Conrad's wearing my favorite thing.
Yeah. So I currently have on what is my favorite that we did for PAX Unplugged, which is our cheese wizard. So
I love it.
we're both East Coast guys, and so I'm from New York. He's from Jersey. We met, as Erin said, in Delaware at the university together. So like Philadelphia is a city that's nearby. So PAX Unplugged being our local kind of convention, we really wanted to do a bunch of like flavor-based stuff for it, being from the space, because not everybody that goes as does that. So Erin's wearing our Liberty Bell mimic, and then we created like this whole backstory about because Cheese Whiz is a really big deal on cheesesteaks in Philadelphia. So what would a cheese wizard look like? So we created like a whole character called the Cheese Wizard with a catchphrase and stuff like that. And
it was
that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, it was funny to brainstorm. Yeah, and that's what's funny. Yeah. We get to make whatever we want, and that's what I'm hoping as we build our fan base up too, we can start getting suggestions and start hearing what other people want to see and start building that ridiculous stuff out, because that's what we did. Even Think Geek had a lot of, very just to the point things, but we also had a lot of ridiculous stuff that, like, why would you go through the effort to make that? It's so cool that I'm totally buying this. And that's the stuff that is so much fun to make, is the things that you don't really need but totally want, and I'm all about that.
Right. I love the cheese was. I love that. That is a great concept, and that's very cool, especially for the area. That's a beautiful design too. But the Liberty Bell, the mimic, to me, like, mimics are my heart. So anything mimic related is always top line.
Is there something you want to tell us, or is
No, it's just one of those. I don't know what it is. It's a running joke. Like, me and one of my friends, we have this big running joke about mimics, like, all the time. He literally bought me for Christmas this chest. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Just thinking it's like a jewelry thing. I could throw my stuff in it. I open it up. It's got teeth and an eye on the inside. I was like, I so love
fantastic.
This. That's just our thing. So anything mimic related is to me top notch. So that's a really good one. Liberty Bell. Just never know. It's a mimic. It's a mimic.
But yeah, I mean, and like, we do some of the local stuff as well, but I have to say, I really like some of the parody stuff that we've come up with. Like we recently did a thing around hollow chess. Obviously, a hollow chess board being circular has to have a rectangular box, just like all tabletop games. So we built a whole rectangular box for a circular game, and and did this whole scene with a family playing the game together. It's great. So it's fun stuff like that. Like I said, that we look for the influence of tabletop in other areas as well, because people don't realize how many different places like show off games, card games, tabletop games, and pop culture and stuff like that, because it's so pervasive. But it also kind of just, because of that, falls into the background, and you lose like, oh, they were just playing a game together, like they were at a bar playing a board game together, and you don't think about that. So,
and it's fun to lean into the pop culture again, because it's been like, it's definitely, I mean, I'm sitting in, my whole office is completely the Millennium Falcon, with like backlit walls and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with that whole world, and I have a whole video game theater here too. So it's like, that it hasn't, none of that is left. It's just, I like serving the market now that has been underserved, and then also as tabletop kind of goes digital, we already know what it's like to make product for that space, and so it's still kind of just, we're starting from one end to the other, to now we're just at that end that no one's really done much with, and then moving forward. So I'm hoping that we can kind of fill that space up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think you already have started on a really good trend already. Just based on what you're literally what you're wearing, I think is the kind of right way to go. But let's talk about, you did talk about some licensing, and with something your company snagged, to me, probably a huge opportunity in the market with one of your licensing. Do you want to talk about what that is and announce what that was?
We have a couple, so I'm hoping that you're excited. I mean, all of them are exciting, but
I'll give you, hang on, I'll give you maybe a brief hint.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no, Off-World definitely. That was, we were very honored and very lucky to be working with Off-World for sure, or with Gen Con. Sorry, that's an Off-World design. So that was the transition of power here. But yeah, as Off-World, we were looking into them because when we were doing some research of who's in that space, that's what we saw them in that space. And so
they go to a lot.
They were huge.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. And they did a lot. And so when they said they were retiring, that's when it was the opportunity arose to come in and see what we can kind of do in that space. It was very early for us to send that email out, but at the same time, it was going to be a digital show last year. That was how it was going to start. So I was like, I think we can pull this off. Let's try it out. And so, we sent over Gen Con and Deck, and they liked what we could do and know the clout we had and the experience we had, because this isn't our first rodeo in making product. And so it seemed like a natural fit. They were excited to get us in. We had, was it 4 months or less to pull everything off? And so, that's what it was like, oh, where's the products? I'm like, it was a lot of sleepless nights trying to work as hard as we could to get all the stuff delivered in a time too, where it was, just like it is now. And you couldn't find shirt blanks. You couldn't find a lot of things you needed. And there's like, we wanted to do glasses. You couldn't get those in time. There's just a lot of stuff that was out. And so we tried and kind of dropped the ball on a couple things, because we really wanted to bring the same spread as what Off-World offered. And Barb was super helpful to give us insight on that as well. And so it was great to be able to work with Off-World too, to learn everything that they've learned in the years that they've been working with Gen Con, to see what would work best. And now this year, I think we're going to be able to get more of an offering that we wanted to kind of bring in our first show, and even the following year. Like it's going to get better and better. Off-World had, I think, over 10 years under the belt with Gen Con, so they definitely had, they had a big understanding of how the show worked and what the fan base wanted. And now we get to kind of get our feet wet and learn a lot through the years as hopefully we stick around for a while.
And honestly, it's been great working with Gen Con as well. Like being able to experience that side of things with tabletop at such a well-known, established convention as I mean, it's the longest running tabletop convention in the United States. So there's a lot of expectation on that experience, and being able to be a part of that is something that we're very proud and thankful for being able to provide to the audience as well, because those are the people that we want to, both as Rollacrit and as Gen Con store, be a part of, and to be able to get experience and to really show them what it is that we want to bring to the table. It's been an awesome experience working with Gen Con and like I said, the attendees of Gen Con. So
awesome. Yeah. And so what can you give us some examples of some of the items and products that you have slated for this year's convention?
So we've as we did last year, we're obviously gonna be doing things like shirts and pins, and but we're also looking to expand into some really beautiful pint glasses, as well as we had a large request last year to get the shot glass back because that was something that we weren't able to get in time. So we rushed to get it done in time, at least for the winter collection in Gen Con. You know what I mean? But we made sure that this year we'll have that ready to go so that people can keep their collection going with that as well. That was a big requested item. And then there's just a few other things that we definitely want to keep under the hat so that it's a surprise when we get there.
It's our 55th anniversary this year, and so that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to have a specific item that we're partnering with another company to make. Which would be really kind of cool once that comes out. And so that'll be announced shortly. We're probably in the next couple weeks or within a month.
Okay.
We'll have some stuff to show. So we just had a meeting with them, ironically enough, yesterday, and so there's a lot of stuff rolling out very soon.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. So I've been a big fan of Gen Con and attendee for many a years. We only recently started going back because family and stuff and kids growing up, and we weren't at that time ready. But now the kids got their first one in 2019. Then 2020, of course, unfortunately, what happened with pandemic, we decided to pass last year, but we'll back this year. So this will be it'll be good. I'm looking forward to see what you have.
Well, then we get to meet you in person too.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Now we do know you already do have stuff up on the website, I'm assuming, correct, for Gen Con products if those want to buy early?
Absolutely.
Out there?
The spring collection came out, I think we launched that in March.
Yeah, it was the end of March. The spring collection just came out, and that's our botanical meeple design, as well as our Gen Con island map that we have together. Some nice dice pattern backpacks and fanny packs and flip-flops as well for the summer season. And then we'll be launching some very specific collections soon that are much more geared towards the actual convention itself. So that'll be merchandise that'll be available so if you want to wear your Gen Con exclusive apparel to the show, you don't have to wait to get it. So
right. Yeah, that's always so here's what was always the tough one as an attendee that we've always noticed, like you go to the show when you want to get your merch for things that show up there, and then you have of course, unfortunately, massive lines that you just can't help around, and then normally the time you go back it's gone. So half the time we've always had to order, like we order it after and backstock it and then come and get it. So
and that's the hardest thing is it's coming up with the amount to bring. It's always like you don't want to come back with a ton, and you don't know which ones are going to work and which ones aren't. So that's always the gamble. We have a really good printing partner, at least we use as a vendor for a lot of our apparel. And one thing with Offworld is they printed their own in a lot of ways. So it's interesting to see, because we definitely have the product development side. So we're hoping to bring more stuff. As the longer we stick around, we'll be able to, and again, we can make things a lot easier overseas. We'll be able to bring in some new categories that I think that we haven't hit, but at least we wanted to make sure that everybody's, appeased with what has been currently, been collected and things like that, just so we don't disrupt any kind of collections or change any kind of processes that we've had before in the past.
Yeah, keep them happy, right? On unhappy fans.
I mean, that's who we're there for.
Exactly.
Right? Everybody's there celebrating that, and they're excited enough to be at Gen Con. And like you said, a lot of people go many years. You know what I mean? Most people, it was definitely fun last year seeing people for the first time because some people who hadn't gone to conventions, and since it was completely remote for 2020. Decided that they were actually going to take a chance and go to Gen Con last year because they knew it wasn't going to be swamped like it was in the past because it was half capacity. So we did get to see some new people experiencing that, but there was a lot of people that have been coming for years still, and they never miss one if they can. So it
was great to talk to them and get advice and stuff like that, because that's the thing is, we were also learning from them and figuring out what's going to make them happy as much as possible. And so we love suggestions because you can't miss on that. We don't have, it takes the guessing away.
That is true. And I think a lot of it too is when you see the former products that Offworld Designs used to produce, and you take a look at the catalog in the past, Gen Con I'm sure can help you guys out with figuring out like these were hot items, and these weren't, things that were going or not going. So yeah, looking forward to see what the next collection, close to the con brings. So I'll keep my eye out for that for sure.
Right.
For sure. And then, but one of the other licenses you recently started working with was with Asmodee, correct? On the Catan their catalog of Catan products.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah. So we signed that I think a month after Gen Con.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we were like, well, let's just try these, and they all worked out. So it's great. But yeah, so Asmodee in general, again, an old relationship from times past. I think at PAX West, I used to be friends with we were booths next to Mayfair Games back at the time, and so we were really good friends with Ron Margin, who runs that, and now he also runs Catan Studios, which is the Catan store online. And so I was picking his brain about starting Rollacrit and seeing if this is like how to enter the space, and that's when he was like, hey, I'll just connect you with Asmodee. And so I was like, okay. So you can't really say no to that, but there's a lot of ideas we have. There's a lot of stuff we want to get into the market for that, and so we've been working hard. We launched some of the shirts already for some of the collections and some of the other product that we have for Catan that's exclusive on Rollacrit. And we're also trying to get into market for some other product and hardline product that we're pitching out to retailers now to see if we can get into stores. But there's some really awesome stuff.
Our first collection, we were kind of thinking about, since we're not the official Catan store like we are with Gen Con, we took an approach kind of like a tourist shop almost. So we think about Catan in terms of a physical place. Like if you were there, what would it be like, and what would a gift shop on Catan sell? So we came out with our Greetings From collection, and it's very postcard-esque and things like that. And then the more recent one that we did was tapping into the port side of things, and because it's not something that a lot of people tend to think about in terms of mechanics there. So we created a whole seaside resort for the islands.
That's awesome.
And yes,
that is awesome.
It's relax, unwind, settle in, I think is the tagline for it. So we really try to think of what that would be like if you were, an inhabitant of the island, the things that you would probably see and people would pick up if they were visiting and stuff like that. So yeah. Our next one is we're excited to get the next one out pretty soon, which is going to be expanding upon that idea. So
right. Very cool.
Yeah, a lot of deep in world stuff.
We believe in lore.
Yeah, these brainstorm sessions are ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, these sound like really fun brainstorming sessions.
Oh yeah,
come up with concepts like that. Yeah, that's good. So I was gonna say, so you have let me think here. Products with lots of sheep, wood, and rock, and people that steal stuff every now and then.
You're not too far off.
That's hilarious.
The inhabitants.
I'll have to go take a look at that on your website too. That's so funny. The now you did mention, Erin, you did say you have other licenses that were in the works. Is there anything you can talk about, or still under the hat?
I guess it's technically under the hat.
Okay.
But it should be out shortly. I mean, essentially, yes. You can make guesses, right? Because essentially, as you see the theme here, we can't make product for PAX Unplugged because that's PAX, and right. So there's things like that. But when there's a community involved due to content, that's where we want to get involved. That's where we want to come in, and you build the content, even publishers, you build the games, you do all the things that you need to do and that you're great at doing, and we'll provide the physical product for that and try to activate, customers to show their fandom for these things. Because I feel like it's a struggle too for a lot of people or content creators that are looking to try to make or go into apparel or go into, they sit on the plush for 4 months, 5 months, 2 years from one run. And it's hard to sit on that cost or even to try to make that investment. And so what we're trying to do is take that part off, keep creating the content. We're not competing with you in any way for content, but we'd like to bolster. And it's the same thing that, the theory of what Think Geek was. It was never like a place where you go and read all these video game reviews, but it was a place that we go and support the places that work. And so as being in part of that marketing team, that strategy to me built the biggest fan base that you can really build of genuine fans, whether they transact through you or not. And that's the thing is to build products and get suggestions, like I was saying before, from fans, what they want to see, and bring that to fruition is, my favorite thing to do. And I think that's something we'll expand on. So as there's communities out there, we're looking for you.
And they're out there, that's for sure. I mean, there's no doubt with, so many, and especially what I find is like with the communities in the gaming market is that you have these passionate fans, right? Who
Oh, yeah.
are looking for, anything and everything that they can consume around this particular game, this particular board game, this particular RPG game. So, especially like if it's content, like more like maps and missions and stuff, or trinkets, things like, everything from like a pin to a bottle opener to coins to whatever. So yeah, those markets are out there for sure, without a doubt in the world. So
Right.
you guys just
I think,
tap into them.
and we really did a great job, I think, showcasing that capability with our Kickstarter, Heroes of Arcadia, because there's so many add-ons that really influence the quality of the game, but aren't needed. You know what I mean? It just shows that there's a lot of great things, and the people who backed that campaign really took advantage of those add-ons as well, because they saw that that stuff was there. It's a game that they've never played before. Obviously they've seen us playing it in video playthroughs and stuff like that, but the enthusiasm that they've shared even for that, excuse me, before they've gotten their hands on the actual game, getting the coins, the coin of conflict resolution, coin of magic portals, our potion opener, even getting into just pint glass sets and stuff like that we made because they were so ravenous about wanting glass instead of
Right.
As an option. That is a direct example of how we saw people asking for something, and we went and we beat ourselves up to get it, and we were able to do it during the campaign. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, and tell
cool.
the people who are gonna see this a little bit more about what is Heroes of Arcadia.
Sure. Go ahead, Erin.
So Heroes of Arcadia was, it was derived from, or at least the idea came up as an April Fool's Day joke back in 2016 at the Geek. And so, to tap into that market of the people, to show them, like, because there was a lot of people concerned of what happened to the people that are working at Think Geek HQ. It was like a natural thing. It was like, okay, what did we do tabletop that we never made that is something that we can try to work on? And so the artist that, worked on that project was working with us to make shirts and things like that, and brought up that the game, was close to done. And so we spent, that's why Rollacrit really started in 2020, but we spent a year going through with a fine tooth comb all the rest of the things that we needed to do to clean up the rest of the game, to make sure it was something we could produce, because it's not cheap to produce. Yeah. We're product makers, and so everything has to be.
I have a newfound respect for people who make games, let me tell you.
Sure. Yeah, it's insane. I can't imagine. But when we're making the most difficult type of game, where everything is made of PVC, or it comes with a set of cups, it's not your traditional call up a board game manufacturer and get some cardboard printed. This is like, they needed to re-engineer how they did things, and had to figure out how to do and engineer a lot of stuff specifically for the game to get it to a point where we can actually bring it to market. Right. And so the idea was there. The game is so ridiculously fun that I've just spent 2 years of my life trying to get it out. But it's because it's a gateway game. It's a game that sounds intimidating, or could be, or look intimidating. But once you play it, everybody can play it. And that, to me, that's the most important thing. And so when it was brought to me as a finished game, rather than just our brainstorm for an April Fool's Day joke, it was ridiculous to see what ended up happening with it. And so I'm very happy to be able to partner with some old colleagues to get that done, and then pull in a lot of friends and help too, to be able to launch it, because we didn't know anything about Kickstarter at all, except for backing a few at the time. So it was a big crash course of learning that whole market, going through and manufacturing that game, and just the not knowing. There's a lot of newbie stuff that definitely some of our backers saw, and how we were like, oh, okay, we'll get stretch goals done. I thought I was going to be fulfilling this out of my garage.
Yeah,
that
Kim and I had this whole plan that we were going to take pictures of ourselves putting stuff in USPS boxes, and
a couple pods and put them on my yard.
Right? Yeah, no.
After the first day, we're like, well, that's scrapped. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let me pull some just for those who don't know, just some quick numbers here. It was funded in 4 hours. It had a backing of 1.25 million, with the original goal was just 50K to get it on the off the ground. 14,000 backers, and then what is it here? That in 17 days, it was one of the top 3 Kickstarters between June to July of 2021. Yeah, that's no small feat. That's not being backed out of your garage for sure.
No. So we've had to really scale ourselves very quickly, and it's definitely, as Erin said, there's definitely been some pretty obvious learning moments that we've had to do publicly, but that's okay, because I mean, that's what we have to do. You know what I mean? So being able to get this product where we want it to be, because that's the other thing too. What we're never going to do is sacrifice our own expectations for a product to just like meet a timeline. Right. And unfortunately, we had internally wanted to get this out by March of this year, but because of all of the things that we've been struggling with, just because of the environment with shipping and the pandemic and things like that, it's definitely, we were unrealistic, I think, in that goal from that side of things. But 2, because we really want to make sure that this product is something that feels like an impressive thing to open from the get-go. Like the way that we approach it, even from the box, everything up, we really want to make sure that there's an experience that you have. And this is a unique product, as Erin said, because it's a gateway game. You can sit down with a bunch of people, and the best feedback I think we've heard from some partners that we've shown this to is how the rulebook is so small. that is probably the best feedback I've heard, and that it's accessible. When you actually read the rule book, there's very simple explanations on how you progress, how you start the game, and then it's through an experience that you're actually learning it. You don't have to have a degree in order to start playing this. So it's a lightweight game, and it's a liquid life system game. So you can also have a different type of crowd that might not have been willing to come over for a night of board games before. Maybe now you can actually open them up to the idea of what it's like to play a little dungeon crawler, because when you take damage, you get to take a sip of something fun. So
right, and it sounds intimidating to play a tile-based dungeon crawling game to people who play like Risk or Monopoly normally. But even with my parents and things like that, and people are playing with people that are just our friends that really aren't big gamers at all, and then they play that game. They have so much fun. And then right after that, I say, okay, well, now you know how to play a tile-based dungeon crawling game. Like, this is the same type of thing. There's just more words and there's more possibilities and mechanics that are added into it. But this is your first step in. So when you hear other games that you can play that are similar to this kind of concept, but it is going to be a little bit more difficult, but it's only as difficult as reading comprehension, right? And so that's really it. And so that's what I really love about it, is that it sounds impressive that they've done something and they're like, oh yeah, now I'm a geek. And I'm like, no, sure. If that's what makes you feel good about
we'll mail you your card.
Yeah, here's your gamer card. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And for those, could you give like a basic rundown of like how the game actually works and functions for those who don't know?
Definitely. So essentially, it starts off where you build a dungeon from scratch based on these tiles that have all of these monsters underneath and loot and stuff like that face down. You make it different every time. The only rule with building the dungeon is that everything has to be touching the starting point or another tile. So there's a ton of replayability, which is a big part of why we like this game, because you can make it whatever you want. As you go through, your miniature essentially is not miniature in this case. It's an actual cup that's filled and with a liquid for you to use to represent your life. And there's bars on that cup that show your health. And as you progress through the dungeon, you're going to experience monster battles where you roll die. There's a monster has a hit point that you have to meet or exceed with your die. There's power-ups that you collect that give you enhancement to that stuff that make it easier. There's team battles where you get to combine with other people to add your die together to hopefully win. And when you don't, you take damage and you have to drink your health away. The best part about all of that stuff is that there is no real death in the game. If you do get to 0, you're magically teleported back to the starting pile. There are some downsides to having, fallen in battle, if you will, where you're leaving stuff around for people to maybe collect on your corpse. But you also then get to play back in. And sometimes that's actually a strategy, because now you're full back up at the starting point. You can maybe get closer because everybody's trying to find the drink hoard, which was stolen by the Grand Drink Guardian. And the first person to get there with 3 power-ups in hand is allowed to battle. So all of that stuff comes into play where sometimes you're helping one another, sometimes you aren't, and sometimes you're stuck down an alley because somebody turned a tile back over and there's 3 traps that you got to disarm to get past it. So
I mean, the heroes from all of Barcadia have been called, and so each hero is a different color that represents a realm of Barcadia, if you really want to go that deep into it. But yeah, essentially the Grand Drink Guardian steals all the drinks, so they have to go and defend and get the drinks back. Be that hero. And so sometimes you are seeing who has more power-up cards as you collect them through battling stuff to then try to steal stuff from them or to screw them over. So it's more of, you're all selfish, but sometimes there is some sort of team component to it at times as you need other people's help. And so it's a great place to, there's a lot of yelling.
But fun yelling.
But what game doesn't have that?
A lot of yelling, a lot of laughing. I mean, it's a more complex based party game, but I think that, you know, you stay hydrated, which is also very important just in life. And and so I think it's for everybody. It's been great. We played with all ages, and the amount that we've demoed this game has been.
And I do want to make sure to say it too, because we always have to bring this up. Like, again, we call it a liquid life system specifically because it's not a drinking game, right? You can, and we do play with alcohol, right? But at the same time, like we've had a ton of people who have been able to play the game just as well and have just as much fun without it. So if that's something that you're not into, absolutely not a problem. So.
Right, exactly. I mean, there's alcohol puns as some of the monster names and things like that, and that's really the extent of it. But it's definitely not coming with a bottle of alcohol in it. And so yeah, I mean, the amount that we've played, I definitely am not a big drinker at all. And so it's weird to say that when it's like, oh, this is like one of the best selling drinking games on Kickstarter. It's like, yeah, I don't really even drink that much. Like, like if I drank a beer, you should probably put me somewhere where I'm not talking.
And I've played with my kids, and they play with chocolate milk. So, and they are just as excited about that.
There you go. And that was one of the things I figured, you know, when I had actually seen it on Kickstarter. I don't know why I didn't back it, bad on me. But I had seen it on Kickstarter.
So that's a really,
all right. It's like, that's a real interesting concept. Like, that's kind of neat. And it's not just, but I think a lot of people would probably get misinformed, probably maybe because of the title, they hear Barcadia and think, oh, it must be a drinking game. But no, I was like, you could play this with anything and anyone.
Yeah, it is. As we heard that objection on some things, it was interesting to hear because, you know, that's really it is. It's like, you know, either the peer pressure you have in your own head or, well, you can only drink with this. It's like, you know, you can play beer pong with water. Like you can literally do anything you want whenever you want. And so, you know, that was interesting to see that was an objection on some people saying that. And it was that's why we changed, you know, to liquid life system, because I honestly don't even drink very much when I'm playing that game. If anything, like I'll still do something punishing like soda or something, because if you drink too much of that, or if you get hit by a big monster, it's just like after a while, there's only so much soda you could drink. So it's still the same effect to me. And then I just talk too much. It gets really annoying. But yeah, I mean, I think we did make the STL files that were, you know, for anyone who did back it during the Kickstarter, will be able to get that so they could print them out or have them printed in my mini factory to be able to get them if they didn't want to use the cup themselves. And so we're trying to see and learn from, again, listening to customers of what they were looking for. Because again, we're product people. So as long as it doesn't break the game, we're all about it. And so we have gotten suggestions that would break the game. So we didn't do those. But anytime that we were watching attentively for sure for any of the things that people were looking for. And that's why we jumped on like, okay, let's try to find a source for glass. Like it has to be dishwasher safe. It has to be industrial dishwasher safe, because this is great for board game cafes. Like, you know, every board game cafe in the country should have one of this, at least one copy of this, because that's amazing to be able to play there. And also we're product people. So I don't like selling something that eventually goes away after some time because it was cheaper. And so it did take some time to be able to source that stuff correctly and be able to get budgets on that correctly and what's it going to ship correctly. Because, you know, when we started the Kickstarter campaign, it was $4,000 a container. I think in holiday, it went to 28.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, it's back to
Yeah.
14, 18 right now. So that's where you'll see a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of articles about a lot of people delaying their Kickstarter still and
I don't blame them for that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
yeah, it's just the nature that you can't really forecast for that, and
Right.
so it's not a lot of these people's fault on what they're doing. And so we had to make a lot of adjustments on our side as well to be able to fulfill this still. And we've had to really forge for it. It's definitely been, when this gets in hand and delivered, I think I'm going to be as excited as every other backer, because it'll be crazy to see this in hand and knowing that it's in the country.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
Yeah,
So
we're very excited.
did you have a timeline yet for backers on when they may see it in hand?
Yeah, we're right now we're telling backers Q3, just because it's always a moving target. We're on pace right now still for Q3. We have our internal, hopeful goal that it gets in at a time where we can launch this at an appropriate venue. But at the same time, once it's on the boat, you don't really know. You can get it on the boat and then it gets stuck in customs for a month. There's a lot of stuff, because we're also a new company, so we don't import tons of stuff, and so they don't know. We could fill out all the documents and dot every I and cross every T, and it still doesn't matter.
Right.
And so that's what a lot of people, it's hard to explain the whole product development side of things, because even testing took longer than it needed to, because everything's tested. And so making sure you're not drinking lead, and making sure that all the product is all completely compliant with every single thing, because that's just what we're used to doing in making this stuff. And so I think we went a little overkill on that, but
it was important.
Yeah.
No, and that's the thing. Like, this game is something that we've done a lot of fighting for to get it to where it is even now. And like Erin said, we're really excited to see when it actually lands and gets in people's hands, because we've been playing this internally for a couple of years now, and finally hearing what other people think about it, that isn't just like our circle of friends and stuff like that, is
it's good to know we're not crazy. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Like, are we the only people who love this game? Like, well, no one else has played it yet. So
I'm sure you're not. I'm
Yeah.
sure you're not. So I was going to ask if there are people who are still interested in, can they still late back, or is that already closed and done?
So it's not a late back. So it's a pre-order page. So we partner with BackerKit for our pledge manager, and they keep the pre-order page open for us. As we get closer to the actual shipment of the product, it's going to turn off the pre-order page, because we want to make sure that that stuff is all locked down and that there's no issues with that stuff. But there is still a time. If you go to heroesofbarcadia.com or rollacrit.com/heroesofbarcadia, that'll show you all the pre-order options that exist, as well as the different add-ons and accessories for it.
Yeah, we're working on the internal switch over of turn of the guard here of who's running what pre-orders when, and so we're set on that. And then we also did we were lucky enough to partner with Roll20 to be able to develop a Roll20 version of the game too, because at the time we were doing the Kickstarter. A liquid life system game during a pandemic wasn't really ideal because a party game that involved liquid, not great.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to make sure that there was a solution for if something like this happened again, or as it continues to happen, or be able to play with your friends anywhere, because it is a party game. And so we did. We had a great partner that helped build that system for us that we're still finishing up, because there's we had to add in all the Kickstarter stuff in there and reprogram a whole bunch of things. And so that's going to be great to launch too. So we definitely bit off quite a lot for our first Kickstarter, doing a global launch, a virtual launch, and
local. And then the US. Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah, but the thing is that what I love about everything you've been talking about, what I'm hearing is that I've kickstarted a fair number of things in my lifetime so far.
Sure.
And the one thing that's always the struggle is that when you see a company that does something and they've I don't want to say fail, that's not a word. When a problem comes up, right? There's a hiccup in something they didn't expect to see. Is how do they turn on a dime from that to make it work so that their backers are happy? And I've seen both sides of the coin, where it's, I've seen who have decided, oh, we're just gonna, plow forward and ahead, and sorry guys, that's the way it is. or, you know, those like what sounds like what you guys have done is, you know, take it the right way and say, this is what we're going to do. And if it means we have to delay, we're going to delay because we want this to be right and that everyone's happy with it. So, you know,
Right, right. And that's the thing.
never
Yeah.
take those hiccups and, you know, slash failures as a bad thing, you know, in the
No,
Kickstarting
and
world. That's not.
No.
right. And that's what we wanted to make sure we do, because we want to make sure that whatever we say we're going to do, we promise and we deliver on that thing.
Yep.
And that's when we had to delay. There wasn't, you know, anything that we can control, we're responsible for it. The things that we can't control, we try to make sure that we let people know that we can't control them, because there's not much you can really do when there's no vote for you,
Yep.
or there's no materials that you can actually make your game with. And, you know, because again, we're industry professionals of making product for years, that's one thing that is different from us, that I think that some people, you know, either know or didn't really realize too, is that, you know, we've been doing this for a long time, just not under this name. And so we're used to hiccups, not to this extent, but definitely we're used to hiccups. And so I don't think anybody's used to this extent. This is crazy, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry.
Awesome.
Again,
So
if we can get through this, I mean,
right,
We can
yeah,
do
right.
yeah.
You can do this. You guys can do anything. It's just easy enough. Easy enough. So, do you have more intent to continue doing more products like Heroes of Barcadia or something similar?
I think Heroes of Barcadia again is to us. I know it's a game, and I know we're now a publisher of that game. But again, it's a gateway game and kind of the intro of, I think it's a game version of what Rollacrit is. And so to us, it's more of coming up with different iterations or different realms for people to live in and using that mechanic system, because we believe in the system, the game enough. I mean, the amount of times we played this game and we're still not sick of it is almost, it's concerning. And so and so if we can do that, and that's again why I put all, you know, we put all this time and money into making this happen, is I really believe in the game as much as I believe in the company, is that, you know, trying to ride this, trying to get this into as many homes as we can so that people can have fun with this and learn what a seemingly sounding hard game is actually like, so that other people have a chance to really grow with their games. Because we're not, the game is amazing, but we don't want to continue just what's the next game, because we're not publishers. I think again that's where we kind of separate the two, is that you guys don't need to make product, you make games. You're game developers, and that's what you're good at. Keep doing that, we'll make your products. And then we just happened to fall on this one that just, you know, it was, I mean, what was that? 7 years in the making, 6 years in the making. And so it took a long time to even get to where it was, to test it enough and really scrutinize it enough to get to the point that I want to make sure that we can kind of maximize this game as much as possible. If people are feeling the Barcadia realm, hopefully we can come up with another realm for you that you might be into, if it's space or Western or whatever. Maybe we can try to license, you know, and try to do different things like that, kind of expand, come up with new characters. There's a lot you can do with characters and their abilities. And so I really want to keep building onto the same game. And then in that same vein, we're also, you know, a licensor of, or a licensee for Asmodee. And we'd love to get Wizards, and we'd love to get a bunch of other gaming companies that work with us. And we don't want to compete with them by making products and continue making games. And so we do have an exception for this game, which is good. And so, you know, I just, it's weird because there's never really been a parameter. It's kind of like a, you know, a video game publisher who's making tons of product, and this, like, it's rare enough to see what we've done for a product company as releasing a game. And so I think that we're happy where we are with that.
Okay. That's fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So with that in mind, what's next for you guys on the horizon that you can talk about, if anything, for Rollacrit?
I mean, we talked about earlier, we have Gen Con coming up in about 80 days now. So we're really excited to be able to showcase a lot of stuff there. As I said earlier, PAX Unplugged is definitely on the horizon for us as well, because that's going to be more of a Rollacrit focused event, where we're representing more ourselves rather than our partners. So we get to have some fun stuff there. But I think the biggest thing that we're at right now is being able to really look at what we've gotten to and how we can expand upon that, right? So we've laid the base with a couple things with our partner with Asmodee. We're looking at expanding into a couple new product categories with some stuff that we have out for samples right now. So there's going to be some non-apparel based stuff that we're really excited to start showing people about.
Hopefully wholesaling Heroes of Barcadia.
Yeah, I mean, Rollacrit, even though, like Erin mentioned earlier, we're completely self-funded. We're a small group of people that just happen to be in the industry for a while, so we're very capable. We have a lot of very big areas that we want to influence around, and the focus with Catan, with Gen Con, and with Rollacrit, those three things really take a lot of our attention, and we want to make sure that those areas also are being given the attention that we feel like they deserve as well, because they do. The fans of those areas really deserve somebody to come in and make some incredible stuff for them. So
yeah, and to that vein too, we were also we started working with a company that helped us with our launch, Thirsty Dice, which is located in Philadelphia, and they're building two new restaurants. I think one's opening in June, 21 Pips in Philadelphia as well, which is popular when people go to PAX Unplugged. But they also helped us do our launch. We did a telethon during our Kickstarter launch at their board game cafe. So since then we've been in touch with them and kind of really working with them to see what we could do in the physical space too, because we all work remote. So Conrad and I live very close to each other in Delaware, but all the rest of our team is all over the country. And so, because we don't have offices, it'd be great to have a space that's kind of, we can call our own, or at least being able to partner with.
Like a home base.
And so we'd be able to, we're working with them, and we're in the works right now with them. So I guess this is a new kind of partnership too, is developing a place where we could sell some of our apparel, some of our product and things like that physically at this board game cafe, but also make product for them and kind of work around a full scale system of making sure that, we understand their customers and what they're looking for, because we can't go to cons nonstop, so we have Gen Con, we have PAX Unplugged, but if we're going to have continuously interaction with people that are playing tabletop, either passively or very into it, that's our local board game cafe. And so now that's kind of like our hangout of really collecting a lot of information and getting a lot of ideas in that space as well. So that'll be expanding in the next year, hopefully, as well, along with everything else we're doing.
Right. That sounds like a lot.
Yeah,
That's like
it
a
is.
lot of yeah. Oh, that's very cool. So I guess let me ask some final question here for you. So you are both gamers in one way, shape, or form. What's your favorite tabletop and favorite board game for each of you? Oh, they're tough questions.
That's a tough question. I mean, I throw. I mean, I'm not gonna say here's what, because that's not released, all right? So we can scrap that.
Yeah, thank you.
Betrayal of Baldur's Gate is probably my favorite. I guess we would consider that a board game. It's super weird that that's one of my favorites, but it's just the most interactive, and I love that it change. Like it's almost like a Heroes of Arcadia thing. It changes every time. There's always a new haunt that comes out. You never know when the haunt's going to come, and everybody's having fun while you're doing it, and it builds the complexity in there too. That allows you to be more strategic. So I do very much love that as the one that's on top of mind.
So I will. So I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons fan. I consume all things Dungeons and Dragons, to be honest. My favorite right now, though, in general, because I have 2 young kids, has been more about what they're able to absorb. So I've been living in the world of Hi-Ho Cheerios or Cheerio and Uno lately, which has been a lot of fun because it's because I get to experience that with my kids, right? And they're not at a place yet where they get to actually experience what I want to do with them, which is walk them through an adventure through a dungeon and goblins and stuff like that. And my oldest is starting to get to that point, which I'm very excited about. But my youngest isn't quite there yet, and he will be very jealous if the older one gets to do that. So, so right now we're sticking with we're sticking with the Unos, which they really love doing, and then Zingo is the other one we've been playing a lot of lately. Okay. So
yeah, Uno had to take a temporary ban in our house for various reasons.
I don't blame you at all. There's been more than a few tears shed.
That's an understatement too. My wife, myself, and my 2 kids. It got a little ugly at times, but It's all good.
There you go. Yes.
It is a fun game. Just
It is.
You know, this gets so competitive at times. You're just like, throwing
Over
down cards as hard
colors.
as you can. Yeah. It's like that one moment when someone's like, draw 4, and you're like,
oh yeah, we
No.
actually had a shirt idea that we came up with the other week for that. So we'll see whether or not that
if it comes out, I will
fruition.
look for it, because that might be one as a nice, great gift.
Actually, yeah,
Be like,
it's
here
really
you
good.
go.
I'm glad you brought that back up. I'm really I want to jump back on that.
Yes.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. And more mimics. You guys need more mimics. I'm just saying.
Oh, believe me, yes, that is another idea where we have like everything is a mimic is something that we kick around every once in a while. So
right, yeah,
or
just have to.
gelatinous cube in some way. So yeah.
Yes, exactly. The gelatinous cube mimic would be even worse. There you go.
There you go.
That's true.
The thing of nightmares, truly.
The thing of nightmares. Yes.
You're not getting past anything.
All right.
Great.
So everyone could find for Rollacrit, your website is rollacrit.com, I assume, right? Facebook page,
Correct.
Twitter, and Instagram.
We
got it all.
On everything.
All right. Yeah, so if you have not checked out any of the product lines yet for Rollacrit, please do so. You go to their rollacrit.com website, follow them on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and anything else that's out there on the social media wise. Because even I'm a little old school, and I know there's tens of other platforms beyond those 3. So you know, keep a lookout for
Google
them.
Plus.
And Google, maybe not there these days, unfortunately. Yeah. So for those of you who haven't, please go ahead and check out their products. They will be at. You guys are physically going to be at Gen Con in 2022, correct? In India.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
And those who are attending, go check out their booth over
Come say hi.
at Gen Con. Yeah, 2022. Come say hi. I will look for you guys. I will definitely come over and come say hi.
Great.
Me and the kids and the wife I'll be there in our glorious back to gaming joy. So it'll be a good time. And
right.
yeah. So, but thank you for taking the time with me today to discuss your product and your company. It's great to have this conversation, and I hope good luck to you in the rest of the future. And I will look forward to seeing what else you're coming out with, especially on the Gen Con line for this year. So
Fantastic.
definitely have my eyes out for that. So Conrad, Erin, thank you so much again. And thank you everyone for watching, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.